it is considered to be a possibility.
Can I ask a question before we get too far into the theories?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pull my hand down. Mm-hmm. All of our theories are saying that it's Dave's remains or whatever was pulled out of that furnace was Dave.
Most of our theories are saying that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're talking about until you say otherwise is the remains or the things that were pulled out of the furnace were Dave.
Yeah, it was Dave.
I just want to clarify
was in the furnace.
that.
Yeah. So yeah.
His keys were there.
His keys were there,
Oh,
and the remains of his work boots were apparently there, and his
Maybe.
glasses, or somebody's. So as far as the accident one goes, nobody, as far as I know, had actually fallen into one of these furnaces before. And I tried to find on the web exactly what the make and model of the furnace was, and so I could see a picture of it, or at least a drawing, diagram, something. Mm-hmm. Had no luck. The most specific information I could find was in a court document that referred to it as a, quote, Nusal vat. That's N-U-S-A-L, vat, unquote. And I searched on the web for that and got zip. That's about it.
Have you ever looked at the imagery from steel refineries?
Yeah.
So they tend to either be a long, hot trough, or they're more of drum is not the word, but it's a giant bucket of hot liquid so that it can then be moved and poured into a form. Mm-hmm. Those are the only two shapes that I've ever seen. I mean, and again, I'm ignoring whatever was on Unsolved Mysteries because it really looked like what they had was made out of storage containers.
Whatever they had in that video, I'm sure looked nothing like our furnace. I did find a picture of a top-loading similar kind of furnace on the web, an old picture and an old manual.
Okay.
And it looked nothing like what they had on there.
Right, but was it like a big square pit of some sort?
Kind of, but it had like a bunch of apparatus around the top because a lot of these were top-loading furnaces, and
you'd pour the unheated material into the opening at the top.
Yeah, but in this case, they would put ingots in there, and they would pull ingots out. Nothing got poured really because they would pull them out and they hadn't melted. They could just shape them. I think they softened them enough that they were easier to shape.
So it'd be more like the kind of ovens they use for like glass blowing or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, and so as far as I know, they were top loading, but I don't know 100% for sure. They could have been. They could have been front loading.
But one would presume that there was some sort of guardrail or
railing
to keep at least the people who are putting those things in.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a velvet rope.
I love it. Velvet rope.
I think so.
I think a velvet rope. Yeah, they had a velvet rope around it with a little sign that said,
because that's safe.
Yeah.
It keeps me safe at the movie theater.
It keeps the tourists out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or wait, what are the little zippy ones they use at the airport?
Oh yeah.
For the DSA lines, because nobody gets through those.
We call those stanchions.
Stanchions, that works, yeah. Dave, I think, was a pretty safety-oriented guy, though, and I'm sure they had something more serious than that to keep people from wandering over and just stumbling in.
Yeah.
And let's face it, you don't need to have a lot of brains to not be falling into a 1,200-degree molten salt furnace.
Yeah. There's no horseplay on the edge of the pool.
No.
And you can tell.
No running.
It's not like you could sort of accidentally back up and fall in either. You're going to feel that heat, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to be feeling it. And so I think even an amoeba would have been smart enough to not fall into the furnace.
Yeah.
So I grew up in an area in Southern Oregon, and there was, I think it was, I can't remember the name of the place, but they dealt with nickel. And so they were heating nickel and doing all of these things. And unless you were just in the general vicinity, you were okay. But when you had to be around any of the burners or the super hot, like these kind of 1,000+ degree areas, you were required to put on one of those nice, fancy, shiny metal reflective heat suits.
I would think so, yeah.
So I can't imagine that they would just let the maintenance guy just walk up and start messing around with something. Well, he would have to be appropriately attired.
But he also wasn't even supposed to be in Plant 6.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, he was supposed to be in Plant 8 and then later on in Plant 4. But yeah, so what was he doing? Maybe he was just wandering by. He saw a door ajar. I thought, I'll go check and see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went in.
That seems wrong. I don't like this theory.
I find it kind of hard to believe that this was an accident. I really do. So I got to give this one a fail.
Agreed.
You like that, Steve?
Well, I don't know. People take Epsom salt baths and they say it makes you feel better. So he was like, it was a salt bath. No, I really think this is a terrible theory.
Yeah.